social issues, education, religion, government, or national security. Brannon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howe.
And welcome to the broadcast. On this Wednesday evening, June 25th, 2025, my guests tonight are going to include former whistleblower, HHS whistleblower, I guess she still is, of HHS. That would be Tara Rodis. Great news tonight. We don't get to report very much good news, but this is a good news story, but still heartbreaking. 60 missing kids found in Florida during largest rescue in history. You're going to find out about this tonight. Apparently, I got a great video by RFK Jr. talking about they're trying to find these 291,000 children that disappeared. Where are these children? You're also going to hear RFK Jr. talk about children, one child, or a series of children, one man getting 43 kids, or about 42, 43, one guy. You're going to hear RFK Jr. under testimony talk about kids being dropped off to someone in an empty field where there are cargo containers. What was the Biden administration doing? What was this all about? I guess it's always the same thing, right? Follow the money. We'll get to that tonight with Tara Rodis. And then a first-time interview with Todd Callender. He's author, along with Jerome Corsi and Craig Campbell, of the book Disease X and Medical Martial Law, Feeding the Globalist Plan to Depopulate the World and Enslave Us. I've never interviewed him before. This should be a very fascinating interview from what I'm told. It'll be very, very fascinating. So we'll look forward to that. Tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, True Social, whatever you got. Spread the word that we are on the air and that folks need to hear what it is we're going to report tonight. Very interesting day at the NATO summit, of course. I guess everybody's talking about it, so we won't spend a lot of time on it. I guess the Secretary General of NATO referred to Donald Trump as daddy. Asked about it by a reporter later. He said, yeah, he did it in an affectionate way, didn't he? I don't know what's going on at NATO, but there you go. I will play one quick clip for you tonight from NATO. Listen to this.
We cannot afford to be dependent on foreign adversaries for critical minerals. And as you know, we made a deal with Ukraine to take a vast amount of the land they have for minerals. We need it.
There you go. We need it. And of course, again, one has to wonder, are we grabbing up minerals and land to back a new cryptocurrency? Because that seems to be where we are going. But President Trump seemed to have a great meeting today in NATO with the world's leaders. So I'm glad that went well. We are, of course, covering all kinds of other news over at worldviewreport.com, your daily aggregated news site, putting up new articles there every day. So don't forget about those. ICE nabs 11 Iranian migrants, including suspected terrorists as Border Patrol warns of possible sleeper cells. This keeps coming out, right? This keeps coming out. Is the peace going to hold between Iran and Israel? Everybody's asking that question. We shall see. We shall see. A lot of stuff there for you folks at worldviewreport.com. Always putting up brand new articles constantly. Worldviewreport.com. All right. Before we get going here with our first guest tonight, Tara Rodis, and then, of course, as I said, Todd Callender. Don't forget, we're brought to you by you. Don't forget about us during the summer months. 4th of July is right around the corner. A lot of people are taking family vacations, I know. A lot of people forget about giving during the summer months. It drops. We can't afford to have it drop, folks. We have our bills continuing to come in to keep pushing out this kind of free programming. So please consider going now. Worldviewfoundation.com. We have a lower third for that. Worldviewfoundation.com. This is a little nudge to the guys in the control room. Worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. If you want to make a contribution over the phone, you'll find our phone number there. Just leave a voicemail for Melissa or text her. She'll get back to you to help you make that contribution over the phone. If you'd like to remember us in your estate planning, as many families have done, sending and giving a lasting legacy through your estate planning, you can do that through our foundation, just reach out to Melissa through that phone number on the website and ask for our EIN number and our official mailing address, and then give that to your attorney, and he can add us in to your estate planning. So please consider doing that, as many families have, to help us continue to push out Christian worldview programming, leave a great legacy, if you would, please. And thank you to all those who have done that. It's very humbling, isn't it? That so many people do that. So thank you for that. Okay, worldviewfoundation.com. But don't forget about us, folks. $10 a month, $20 a month, it all adds up. Don't forget about us. worldviewfoundation.com. And then, of course, if you go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors, you'll find all the great sponsors we have that we use. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Check out all these great sponsors. They're great products that we recommend, that we use, from water filters to the Worldview Talk satellite phone, solar generators, so much more. It's all there. worldviewtalk.com. We also, of course, have the Gatatana. One scoop is equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. Dolly gets a half a scoop every day on her food. This has really taken off. I do the three things every day: Gatatana, Bella Grace, and Numi. This Gatatana has really taken off. And well, it should, when you hear the testimony of the man that was given a terminal diagnosis and started eating the phytoplankton he was raising for shellfish. His 11 biopsies came back benign. And he went on to live another 10 years, retired to Hawaii, died in his 80s. We've read that report. We've showed you the video of him. So all of these are at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. But let's get right to it, folks. Joining me now is Tara Roditz. It's been a while since she's been back with us. I saw an article the other day. Here he is. 60 missing kids found in Florida during largest rescue in U.S. history. And when I heard that, or read that headline, I thought, I've got to get a hold of my friend Tara Roditz. You guys remember she's an HHS whistleblower. Her face, her picture, her video of her speaking before her congressional testimony has gone viral all over, as you guys know. And so she's kind of become the face of this movement to find these missing children. And we have some great news and some very, very disturbing video clips to play. Testimony by RFK Jr., the things he's admitting now. You know, some people get called conspiracy theorists and other things, but here we now have the secretary admitting what, well, many of us were reporting, particularly Tara Roditz. Tara, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Brandon, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to sit down and talk with you. And thank you so much, because there is good news to report. As you know, the Trump administration is fiercely devoted to defending and protecting children and finding the missing children. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about it.
Well, I appreciate your being a whistleblower and bringing this to the attention of the country, thus the president, and so that his administration can do something about it. And we are so pleased with him and his administration and yourself and RFK Jr. and all that so many are doing. It's a team effort. You guys have been doing great. Here is the headline again. 60 migrant kids found in Florida during largest rescue in U.S. history. Can you tell me about this? I mean, I guess the Attorney General in Florida is behind it. What do you know about this case?
Well, so I can't really talk about any of the cases or tradecraft. I know it's so hard when you have to say that. But that is not even the largest case that's being worked. So Stay tuned, stand by. There's more coming. So I just want to, let you know that when a new president takes over and he puts in new policies, new staff, and new mission focus, incredible things happen. And that's what we're seeing now. New policies, new staff, and new mission focus.
Isn't that something? 60 children. He says the 2-week operation saved the lives of at least 60 children, according to this article, and saw 8 adults arrested on charges, including human trafficking, child endangerment, drug possession, and drug trafficking. Operation Dragon Eye involved over 20 agencies and 100 people. Most of the children were ages 9 to 17 years old, were found in the Tampa Bay area. Their stories are heartbreaking. Berger said that children have been debriefed and provided with physical, psychological care as well, but some of them required additional assistance, maternal care, According to Natasha Nascimento of Refining Refuge, many of the young girls were pregnant. She says the operation didn't recover children, it recovered generations. It didn't just recover children, it recovered generations. She went on to tell the story of one of the girls who was pregnant with the baby of her trafficker and what happened the first time she heard her own child's heartbeat. And when she was brought to Baycare for medical assistance, and to one of my team members, Addie, who I've already mentioned, Addie had the great privilege of going with this child to get her first ultrasound. She was in her second trimester of pregnancy, and she had never, ever heard the beating heart of her baby. And so the ultrasound began, and she heard her baby's heartbeat for the very first time, and she began to weep. And all she said to Addie was, "My baby." But this moment awakened something in this child, and it shifted something in this child. And it was almost as though she realized that instead of just doing the soul-searching work of surviving, she was willing to fight for the life that was inside of her. She went on to thank law enforcement officers, others involved, telling them that they not only gave this young girl a second chance at life, but they also gave her baby a chance at a fresh start. And so every single person that is sitting in this room, the officers who knocked on that door, you didn't just give our child a chance, you didn't just protect her, give a child a chance, you didn't just protect her, you protected her child. Interesting. I think I messed up though. I think that is Nascimento. That's the last name of the no. Who is that? That's a lady that works with one of these organizations. It is a she. I'm hoping I got that right. Natasha. Yeah, Natasha. It is a she then. That brings a tear to your eye, to be honest with you. I don't know how. I guess it's a God-given trait of a mother. But to have this sensitivity, to weep, to say my baby, to clearly be protective of this child, even under the circumstances of being trafficked and impregnated by her trafficker, I guess people go through these things and they somehow, you might think become so hardened and jaded, but she still has a sensitivity to her about her unborn child, doesn't she?
Yes, she does. And what's really sad, Brannon, is that there are many children like this all across the United States. And it's a result of the failed open border policies of the Biden administration. We know, and we were reporting, a whole team of whistleblowers. You've had many of them on your show. We've been reporting since early 2021 that children were being trafficked across our border, and they were being sent to bad actors who were using them for labor, for sex, and other unspeakable things. This has been going on for more than 4 years, but not anymore, not under this administration. Like I said, they have new policies in place. Some of the policies, DNA testing. Imagine that, to make sure that the child is going to someone they're related to. Requiring official ID. We're not accepting anymore at ORR a driver's license that's international that nobody can verify. They're fingerprinting every single adult in the household where the child is going to be going to make sure there are no other predators there. Also, verification of income. Part of the reason that traffickers bring the kids here is so that they can earn money off of the kids instead of the sponsor providing a safe home for the kids. So they're verifying that there's that there's actually funds available to care for the child. This just makes sense. There are common sense things they're doing to include ending placements of children in shelters where there have been reports of abuse. It's just unacceptable. And the sad thing about this case and many others like it is that there's a helpline for children to call, and the Biden administration didn't even answer over 65,000 of the calls. And so the Trump administration has now gotten through about 60% of the phone calls that came into a hotline. So children saying that they needed help and no one ever answered the phone. So this administration is making changes, and a lot of it has to do with new staff because, as my good friend and DHS whistleblower Aaron Stevenson always says, is personnel is policy. And the people who you have working, you want people who are dedicated to the mission. And so the new staff at the Office of Refugee Resettlement includes Acting Director Salazar, and she is former Homeland Security Investigations. They have Senior Advisor Fabricator. He's retired from Immigration and Customs Enforcement. There's other law enforcement there. And this team that I had the privilege to meet yesterday, they are protecting the vulnerable and they are pursuing the vile. So the third thing is their new mission, and this is their multi-agency task force. So they are working with multiple agencies to do data sharing that they've never done before, and not for this program, not to find these children. And so they are ramping up a new program, and they'll need some help. Hopefully they'll bring back some of the whistleblowers to do that, to locate the missing children and then investigate the allegations of exploitation and trafficking. So it's pretty incredible what the change of administration can do.
Isn't it though? Isn't it though? And we got some really shocking clips to play for you by RFK Jr. Again, shocking what he's admitting. And to think that this went on in that last administration, but to have the Secretary of Health and Human Services come out and admit these things, we just obviously want to commend RFK Jr. for coming out and saying these things, admitting, telling the American people what's going on. I'm going to play those for you in just a second, but first I want to wrap up this on Florida. Listen to a little bit of what the Attorney General in Florida had to say.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. Today is a big announcement. It's a tough situation that got us here, but we're excited to announce the successful completion of the largest child rescue operation, not just in Florida's history, but in United States history. In a 2-week period, this team, a collective work of many agencies and law enforcement personnel, rescued 60 kids, kids that were in critical danger, many the victims of trafficking, many missing kids. We got a lot of people up here, and that's because it took a lot of people to get this done. What makes Florida the rule of law state is we're great at working together in collaboration across agency lines. So I'm excited to have here with me today.
All right, so there we go. Do we know how many of these kids yet, Tara, that were illegal aliens, or, because you said missing children, were any of these American kids that have been kidnapped off the streets?
So that is a great question, and we'd have to reach out to Florida to find that out. So I don't know the breakdown of how many of the children were American children, if they were all American children, if they were all unaccompanied children. I don't know the breakdown. That's a good question. We need to reach out to Florida to find out.
I've got 3 kids. I've got a daughter. I got a granddaughter that'll be a year old here in July. We were super protective of our kids. I guess we could always be more protective, but we were pretty protective. But I would even be more protective today, knowing all that I know now. What do you say to young parents, knowing all you know now and how prevalent sex trafficking of children is? What do you say to the young moms out there, or the would-be moms, or maybe to the grandparents who should be talking to their grandkids, or their children who have their grandchildren? What do you say to these families about the necessity for vigilance here on this topic?
Yeah, there absolutely must be vigilance, and they need to get educated on how it's happening. So at americasfuture.net, I travel with a group. We go around the country. Our next stop is going to be California. We just came from Wisconsin. It's called Get in the Fight. It's the Get in the Fight campaign that helps parents, grandparents understand what is happening, what does grooming look like, what are the signs that I need to be aware of that something is wrong with my child or my grandchild. Suddenly, my child came home with very expensive gifts, or suddenly they're getting very secretive. Their pattern of life is changing. We teach parents and grandparents signs to look for, and then how they can contact either law enforcement or other support groups to get help. Absolutely. It's super important. And most people, I know when I was growing up, my parents didn't even know a thing about this. So they just never would have imagined something like this was happening. But it's very important today. Parents must be vigilant, especially because of the technology. You know, you think your child is sitting in their room, and actually when they're in their room, when they have their phone, that door is open for any person to come in and out of. You're not seeing them, but the child is seeing them. Wow. So it's very important. My niece, who I just happened to see over the weekend, she showed me that like a 42-year-old guy had reached out to say hello to her. She'll be starting middle school this coming year.
How did he find
crazy.
her? Did he find her on her profile on like a social media or what?
Yeah, just on social media. You know, you think your child is chatting with friends, and they're chatting, anybody can break into their chats. And they're attempting to target school-age children and groom them. And that's how they do it. It's absolutely astounding. So you have to be vigilant if your child or your grandchild has a cell phone. Absolutely.
Here's RFK Jr. just yesterday, correct, Tara?
Yes.
This is just yesterday, folks. Watch this.
The Biden administration lost track of all those children is because they were emphasizing speed over security. And there were political reasons for that. They wanted to get the kids out of U.S. custody, so they were handing them off to anybody. They didn't require background checks. They didn't require identification even. I've watched horror stories of the same person picking up child after child after child, using different names and different addresses. One of the addresses was a strip club. One of the addresses was a parking lot. One of the addresses was an empty lot that was filled with shipping containers. And this character was getting all these kids. One person got 42 kids to one address. What we're doing now is DNA testing on every sponsor. We're doing personal identification. We're doing background checks, and we're doing income verification.
Wow. Shipping containers. One person, 42 children. I want to get into this more in another clip right on the other side of the break, folks. Tara Rodas is my guest. See her X account there under her name? You should be following her. She's putting up great reports. We'll be right back with more. Don't go away.
True beauty isn't applied. It's nourished from within. Bella Grace Elixir, a luxurious, scientifically crafted blend designed to restore radiance, vitality, and strength at a cellular level. At the heart of Bella Grace Elixir lies cat's claw, a powerful herb from the Amazon known for its ability to control inflammation and protect collagen. With Verisol collagen peptides, it goes beyond the surface, stimulating your body's natural collagen production to reduce fine lines, improve skin elasticity, and promote real, visible change. Bella Grace Elixir doesn't stop at collagen. It includes astaxanthin, one of nature's most powerful antioxidants. 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, astaxanthin protects your skin from harmful UV rays and environmental stress, while locking in hydration and promoting a radiant, youthful glow. Experience the power of nature with Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Discover the science behind Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Read powerful testimonials from doctors and real customers who've experienced life-changing results, and explore other wellness products from Bella Grace. Bella Grace Elixir is more than just a product. It's a solution. Visit melissahousebg.com today.
All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Tara Rodas joins us again. Let's have you comment on that before we go to the next clip of RFK Jr. One guy picking up 42 children, shipping containers. What do you know about the shipping containers?
Well, what we know is what the secretary reported is that children were just dropped off into lots where there were shipping containers. This is unacceptable. This is something that we were reporting on in early 2021. We were saying people were getting multiple children from multiple sites, anybody, you didn't need to be an investigator. I'm not an investigator, right? But anybody can see that you shouldn't be delivering 5, 10, 15 children to the same address. They knew it was happening then. They chose to do nothing about it. As a matter of fact, what they did do was try to stonewall any investigation into it by retaliating against the whistleblowers. I wasn't the only person who got walked off my job. There were other people here in the DC headquarters office who were walked out of the building because they were expressing concern. I was walked off the Pomona Fairplex, my job, in California. Now, fortunately, my agency was not going to play games with HHS and immediately recalled me to DC, even offering to send agents to come pick me up. They were concerned, but they didn't care. You may recall that under my sworn testimony, I said what my boss told me was, we don't get sued by traffickers. The legal position of the Department of Health and Human Services under Secretary Becerra and the Biden administration was, we don't get sued by traffickers. So you are to move those kids in 10 to 14 days. And it's just the horror. It's unthinkable. And Brannon, I think if I had not witnessed it with my own eyes, I can't even imagine that a federal employee could say something like that.
What do they mean by that? We don't get sued by traffickers. I don't understand. What do they mean by that?
Yeah, well, I was raising concerns about that we were sending a child to the address that we had already turned over to law enforcement for suspected trafficking of 4 children. And I said, we're sending another child? Another child we're sending to this address? And the response was, Tara, we only get sued if we keep kids in care too long.
Oh.
We don't get sued by traffickers.
Okay, now I get it. But who would sue them when they keep kids too long? Who would sue them? Some nonprofit group that, like a whistleblower type organization, would sue them to bring them into compliance or move quicker?
That's what some people have done in the past. They're playing games. They don't want the children to be, or the sponsors of the children looked into. Mm-hmm. So this was what created this whole problem.
So in other words, if you sue, you can speed it up. You speed it up. You don't do all the background checks. So the lawsuits, if I'm hearing you correctly, the lawsuits were done in order to create the problem of elimination of background checks. I want to speed it up, speed it up, speed it up. So the lawsuits were just the way to speed things up. So the process of verification and backgrounds wasn't done. So you could actually get the children and then traffic them.
Well, they had changed all the rules. So they had taken out like the DNA testing. They had taken out fingerprinting of sponsors.
That all takes time. That all takes time.
Oh, I know. You cannot move children quickly in 10 to 14 days if you were doing proper screening and then vetting and then concurrent vetting of your sponsors. There's no way to move children quickly. And the goal under the Biden administration was speed over safety, right? Secretary Kennedy, I believe, said the word speed over security.
He did.
So speed over safety. No, that is totally unacceptable. And I know that the average length of stay has gone up quite a bit under the Trump administration, as it should.
Length of stay where?
In the custody of Health and Human Services until a proper sponsor can be screened and then vetted. So that's what they're doing now. As Secretary Kennedy mentioned, I mentioned the new policies. I'll just say them one more time. DNA testing is required to ensure proof of relationship. Also, official ID. Instead of accepting they kept telling us, oh, you're not a professional, so you can't tell if the ID is fake or not. But we saw IDs like international driver's licenses. They were allowed to use anything in order to move the kids faster when we were working at the Pomona Fairplex.
Obviously, it's about money as well, right? I mean, it's about money. It's a criminal money operation. How did the Biden administration or anyone tied to them How did they benefit from this money? Was this money being paid under the table? Was this criminal actors getting involved and thus, again, money under the table? I mean, if they're making money on these kids and the Biden administration, as you're saying, was speeding these things up to stop the background checks, that shows you there had to be people on the inside that were benefiting from this business model, so-called, right?
Yeah. So there's two ways. One is just by giving the contracts themselves. And we know that there was a Biden transition person, Andrew Lorenzen Strait, who was caught on undercover camera saying he gave the contracts the Washington way. So he gave the contracts to Endeavors and Cherokee Federal, and that is the Cherokee Federal actually serviced the site where I was at the Pomona Fairplex. And the money that we're talking about is $100 million a month.
From the federal government to these contractors.
Yes. So the amount of money that was being spent, and that didn't even include the transportation. So the contractors benefited insanely, right? Southwest Key, all these different contractors, Endeavors, they were all making insane amounts of money. So
and the Washington way is kickbacks. Is that right? Is that what that means?
Well, I'm hoping that investigations that may have started already or may be underway are going to follow the money and see how all that lands. So that's one way the money was made. The other way the money was made, if you're thinking about the perspective of the trafficker themselves, the trafficker who's a business person, right? They move money, they move guns, they move drugs, they move children. And they can sell their drugs and their guns and the kids. And unfortunately, they see kids as commodities.
The drugs and the guns, you really can only sell one time. The kids you can sell over and over. So
exactly.
It's kind of the subscription model. You know, a lot of people do subscription-based business because you get paid every month, right? Over and over and over and over. Yeah. Well, they sell the drugs, they sell the guns, they're gone. But the children, they're selling them over and over and over. Is that part of their business model? Is that why they're doing it in part?
Yeah, that is unfortunate.
The child trafficking must be bigger than drugs.
Oh, absolutely. It has eclipsed. This is what law enforcement is saying, that child trafficking has eclipsed the drug trade because for the reason that you said, you sell a drug one time, whereas once you have the child in your possession, you can sell them 10 to 15 times a day after day, week after week.
And what's the life expectancy of that child?
Estimates say that a child who's trafficked, and it depends on the age when it starts, it can be 2 to 7 years. Yeah, their little bodies can't take it.
No, of course
I know survivors who have surgeries every single year as a result of the trauma that they faced. People don't understand. Most people don't want to look into the darkness or even contemplate what happens to children who are the most vulnerable people in our population, who have no defense. They can't understand what's really happening and why it's so important that this administration is making these major changes.
100%. Watch this next video with RFK Jr., please.
Good morning.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I'm your HHS Secretary, and today I got to visit the War Room at the Office of Refugee Resettlement, which is one of the sub-agencies here at HHS.
Can we prove force, fraud, or coercion to get a human trafficking case?
ORR has been fiercely devoted towards trying to locate the 291,000 children that disappeared during the Biden administration, the unaccompanied minors who came across the Mexican border. The most sacred duty that we have is to protect our children. And so I want to thank all of you for the work that you're doing, and God bless you all.
291,000 children that are missing. I know it's just a guess. How many of those children, what percentage you think are even still alive?
Wow, that's not being law enforcement. I don't want to make a guess. What I will say is that many law enforcement professionals have told me They're like, Tara, you have to know that a lot of the children, I'm like, a lot? Like what percentage? They're like, you just need to be prepared. No, you need to be prepared that a lot of the children are not alive. Now, what we do know is that kids can be found, and that's what we're focused on. Just like that girl, right? Trafficked, pregnant, but then suddenly, wow, she hears her baby's heartbeat, and she's like, you know what? I'm gonna get out of this. I'm gonna live, and I'm gonna make a way. And so there's so many children right now. And Brandon, I think one thing that your viewers need to grasp is that this unaccompanied children program that was like a white glove delivery of service of children, that was only one way that children were coming across the border. Children were also coming across the border in fake family units. So the real number, like if you talk to the real analysts and experts, like the DHS whistleblower, Aaron Stevenson, who you've had on before, he emphasizes that we don't know the real number. We could have more than 1 million children missing by the time you're combining the unaccompanied children, plus the children who cross the border in fake family units, plus the missing children here in the United States who are missing from foster care and CPS and other things. It's, as people say, it's upwards of 1 million children we could be looking for.
I've got about 3 minutes left in this segment, Tara. What would they have done with that gal's child? If she had not been rescued, what would they have done when her child was born? What would they have done with that baby?
This is something that a lot of people don't want to think about. Sometimes they just put them in the trash. Sometimes they will sacrifice those children.
Like in an occultic ritual?
Yeah, they've found altars in houses. I mean, this has gone on for years. People have known about it. I've talked to people who have actually had this happen to them. If you would have told me this 5 years ago, I would have said, you probably need a little more tinfoil in your hat. But now that I know people who've survived it and who've been through it, it's very unfortunate what happens. It's why this is urgent.
I even hate to ask it, but I know enough to know about this from studying, even this week, a book written by the former supreme leader in Iran, Khomeini, on the proper way to have sexual relations with even a child. We actually showed that this week and read from it. So would it be out of speculation that they would even traffic infants?
Oh, they do traffic infants. Absolutely. Yeah, Laura Logan has done extensive work on this, and it's a horror that I wish I never knew. There was a bust in Florida recently where they talked about how they had to watch, the videos. These guys had made pornography using infants and toddlers, and that the sheriff who was sharing the story was in tears. He said, "You don't know what my agents have had to go through to watch what people did to these children and hear them screaming." People don't understand the evil that we're dealing with.
You're absolutely right. They do not. They don't fully understand the evil. I think some of that is maybe our conditioning in America. Like I've been saying, we kind of put a governor on our brain and we only accept so much, or we want to hear so much. And I hate to say it, I'm sure even by now, some people have turned this interview off because they're like, I just can't hear it. But we have to hear it. The Bible says, have nothing to do with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose it. And that's what we're doing. Let me show you her X account, folks. I hope you'll follow her and the great work she's doing at Tara Lee Rodas. TearaLeeRodas. You're welcome back here anytime. You are doing God's work.
Well,
the Lord had a lot to say about children. He had a lot to say about children, didn't he?
Yes.
And we're thankful for the Trump administration, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And I would just say this last thing. This administration is serious about finding these kids. And so if you are a child in danger, this administration would say to you, please hold on. We're coming. And if you are a predator trafficker going after these kids, you better get running because we're coming.
Kara Rodas, thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.
We'll be right back after this break.
Nature has a rhythm, a quiet strength, a way of restoring, protecting, and renewing us. Wellness isn't just about how you feel today. It's the quiet choices you make for tomorrow. At myvitamin.com/worldview, we've made daily self-care simple. Quality vitamins, daily supplements, and targeted nutrition. myvitamin.com/worldview makes it easy. Pure ingredients thoughtfully combined, tailored for your body. Formulated by a doctor who has over 25 years of medical practice experience and is a certified functional medicine provider. Visit myvitamin.com/worldview today and take the next step towards strength, balance, and resilience. Discover the wide range of med packs made for you and your loved ones. What you nurture today becomes the strength you walk in tomorrow.
I'll tell you one little quick story. We had a Worldview Weekend client who lived in California, lost their house, very wealthy guy. He didn't use Bitcoin. He came over here, drove to Arizona with $286,000 worth of his gold because he had no money and no house available. His bank was shut down because he couldn't have access to his bank account.
Was this during the fire? Was this during the fires?
During the fire. Didn't have his driver's license. He lost it. The state wouldn't give him a new license because he had no active mailing address. Real mess. So he came to Arizona to buy a house. He's moving everything over. He said, the only thing I got in my possession that I can get liquid with right now is my gold. I gave him a check for $286,000, and guess what? I didn't need his social, his driver's license. Sort of smiled, and I said, you know, I know you and Brandon talked about how this worked, but boy, this is great. I feel good. I got my money. Nobody bothered me, and I'm protected, and it's private.
Just simply go to worldviewgold.com, fill out the form, worldviewgold.com. Joining me now is Todd Callender. He is author of this book, Disease X and Military Martial Law. Love the subtitle. Defeating the globalist plan to depopulate the world and enslave the remnant. I love that because, you know, folks, that's what we've been talking about for years here is eugenics, depopulation, and more. He joins us now. First-time guest. Hope he'll be back again. I hope you'll check out his book as well. I'll mention it one more time before we go. Todd, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
What a pleasure. I feel like a kindred spirit already if you've been talking about this for years.
Oh, wow. Indeed, we have. We've been talking about that and the plan, that has the United States population going down by 68.5% by 2025. Yeah. The plan,
the Deagle report.
The Deagle report. Thank you. I had a memory lapse there for a moment. Europe going down by like 77%. And then we just, you know, we have so many of these reports like Event 201 and others. We had another one we mentioned, the name escapes me right now, but we had another exercise tabletop not too long ago that talked about some kind of big disease coming out and all, like 280,000 people dying in one day. That was just in the last few weeks. What was that called?
It's another 201.
Yeah.
And by the way, Palantir and these guys that are just made, you know, lieutenant colonels in the military, no military experience, are now detachment 201. So there seems to be some very strange fascination with depopulating this planet and the number 201. And by the way, I'm sure you would have seen the Cairo Population Accords where 194 countries got together and decided 7 billion people have to go. It's a UN summit.
Yeah, 7 billion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So this book, when did it come out?
I guess it's about 5 months ago now. 4 or 5 months ago, I authored it with Jerry Corsi, Dr. Jerome Corsi, Dr. Craig Campbell. Dr. Corsi is well known as an author. I think he's got plus 40 books out there. So this came, you know, from my experience of being in the vaccine industry almost 30 years ago, conducting clinical field trials for 3 years. I brought Pfizer, I brought WHO into Cuba. I actually know these people. And my family continues on in the vaccine business with a needle-free injector. So I have been watching clinical field trials for mRNA shots for 20 years and seeing all the test animals die every time upon challenge. So the book really comes from that experience, along with the fact that I couldn't stand by I'm an international tax and insurance lawyer, but I ended up suing the U.S. Department of Defense because nobody else would to try and stop the shots at a small team. Shouldn't say nobody. But this is the point, right? I knew all the animals died. I knew mRNA was a poison. And so before Lloyd Austin issued the order for the mandate, I actually sued him, served him with 1,000 pages of evidence about exactly how poisonous these things were. And by the way, they knew that from their own study 1 year prior. And despite filing a temporary restraining order, Lloyd Austin issued the order. He fragged our own troops with malice aforethought. And so our suit went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, where we even discussed issues of sovereignty, because there's U.S. court precedent. The Supreme Court 2013 says if your body's been modified by RNA, you're effectively a new species owned by the patent holders.
A new species owned by the patent holders?
Yes. The case is called Molecular Pathology versus Myriad Genetics, 2013 U.S. Supreme Court case, page 6, halfway down, starts with the words, "It is also." The court holds that use of mRNA to genetically modify a species means that the new genome, the synthetic product of that gene modification, is two things: a new species and owned by the patent holders. My brief to the U.S. Supreme Court and the 10th Circuit before it was that we outlawed slavery in 1865 by virtue of the 13th Amendment. You can't own people, whether they're vaccinated or not. And both courts said, blah, 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 we can't hear what you're saying. In other words, what happened in molecular pathology is what we call good law.
And why would they want to say that this new product or human is owned? What is their goal? Are they going to then put us on the, we talk a lot here about tokenizing things, putting everything on a ledger. Is this so they can take the workforce and the Americans and then tokenize us and put us on their ledger?
Yeah, it's kind of already happened. So one of the reasons why the book is titled Medical Martial Law is because I discovered in the course of litigating against the DOJ, DOD, HHS, FDA, is that, this was not only something that was intentional and been planned for a long time, including a changing of the laws globally, literally globally, over the last 50 years, such that upon the declaration of 6 magic words by the director of the WHO, Tedros Adhanom, effectively everybody's human rights, everybody's constitutional charter rights are revoked. So what I'm trying to say to you is, even at this moment in time, by virtue of the declarations, all of our rights are gone, including the ability to go to court and seek redress. All of our cases, there's about 100 lawyers globally been fighting this. All of our cases have been dismissed. And we've all fought tooth and nail to get heard. In other words, this is a giant effort. It's a collaborative effort amongst the nations to depopulate the planet, and the use of the shots and COVID before it were simply tools in the arsenal to do this. So I know it's a roundabout way of getting to what you're trying to say or what you're asking about, but I wanted people to understand the pretext is that if you are no longer human, if you no longer enjoy human rights, what rights do you enjoy? And the answer is none. So if it's a new species that our government already labeled Borg in 2001 in the NASA Langley research paper on 5th generation warfare 2025, what does that species enjoy as rights? And the answer is none. If you shoot your dog in the head, did you commit homicide? And the answer is no. Homicide is the unlawful taking of a human life. What rights does property enjoy? None. Your dog is property. Your house is property. It has no rights. Only humans have rights. So if these poor people are now vaccine slaves, as I call them, what rights do they enjoy under the law? And the answer is, I don't think any. And at this point in time, it doesn't matter because none of us have any rights.
Wow. So I want to talk about RFK Jr., talking about Americans wearing some kind of device. I want to get to that.
Thank you, Lord.
And we really appreciate RFK Jr., what he's done in regards to many things, and even sex trafficking and finding these children, and some things that we have on that in the broadcast tonight about that. But this I don't know anything about, so I'm gonna hear the clip for the first time and talk to you about it, because I don't even know what it's about. I just know it's controversial today. But before I get to that, just warning the audience, stay with us because we're ready to get to that. I want to go back to Disease X. What do you think Disease X will be? And is it going to be bird flu? Because we heard last year that the government had ordered up all these bird flu so-called vaccines. We reported earlier this week with Nick Helsher about the push for vaccinating all the poultry and the cows and everything. And then he talked about the fact that if we're not careful, this is going to kick this thing to the next evolution and then go human to human. So are they already laying the foundation for bird flu?
No, it's already happened.
Is that what they want?
It's already happened.
So disease
They
X
already
disease X will be the next, will be the bird flu? That will be the bird flu, will be disease X?
No. What I'm saying is they've already released disease X. And they released it in Africa, and they continue to release it ongoing. And my point, well, this is what I wanted to get to. So we discovered, again, in the course of all this, imagine how many whistleblowers you get when you represent effectively 400,000 service members, right? A lot of people are giving us information. We discovered the Department of Energy's database of more than 470,000 pathogens that they created since 1955, primarily out of a protein they found in brewer's yeast known as gene 1616, also known as death-associated protein 6, also known as kinase. They've used this as a pathological basis, as a pathological agent in medicines and vaccines for the last 60 years or so, maybe a bit longer than that. The point being that we found all of their ingredients, we found all of their formulas, we found all of their scientific papers, and you heard me right, it's the Department of Energy that did this. And we have been following the creation of disease X, which is chimeric. That means it is bacterial, it means it is viral, and it is parasitical all at the same time. COVID was both viral and bacterial. That's why it took doxycycline and chloroquine or IVM to get rid of it. We also found that they made this zoonotic. What does that mean? It means that this is effectively a universal pathogen that they're releasing. Whether it's in a cow is immaterial. It will jump species because it is designed to jump species, and it is designed to be very difficult to kill because of the 3 different vectors of infection: parasitical, bacterial, viral. So we already know there are components of hemorrhagic fever, viral hemorrhagic fever as it's called. There are elements of Staphylococcus, E. coli, bird flu was N1H5 if memory serves, but we have it all. And the answer is this is man-made. And if you go to Uganda and you look up Bill Gates' latest vaccine trial, he's shooting those poor people full of mRNA shots with a 93% serious adverse event rate. These people are all dying. Why? Because inside of the lipid nanoparticles that form the basis of these mRNA shots, they're little delivery devices, like a little bomber. And when they're subjected to stimulus, they can actually open the contents and then infect or somehow genetically modify a species. And that's precisely what they're doing. What I'm trying to say to you is that we have evidence that people that got the COVID shots already have some of these chimeric bugs in them. They're inside the lipid nanoparticles, and they can be effectively remotely released. The other part that we came to understand is that these things all respond to EMF radiation in the 5 gigahertz band with 18 gigahertz specifically.
So does that mean like 5G and these things can activate it or
take it off? Yep, that's what that means. But the good news is this. I've talked to some sources inside the U.S. government. Don't forget the 5G band, 300 megahertz to 300 gigahertz, belonged to the U.S. DoD for 30 years. It appears that some good guys have got hold of the signals that would foil this attempt. And I think based on what I'm seeing, if you look outside the United States, you'll see all the usual propaganda. Oh, no, disease X is out. It's out there. Everybody, you see the same stock photos, guys in hazmat suits, people in hospitals. It's all outside the United States. They haven't pushed it here yet, but you can find lots of videos about it. The point being is that the full court press is already on outside the United States, but for whatever reason, it's not working. People have not taken up on the shots. People are not getting scared. All of the propaganda is failing, but they certainly have tried to release disease X, including infecting poultry or vaccinating them as the case may be. And the same thing with cows. Right now, livestock has a required vaccine schedule, except they're not vaccines. They're chimeric poisons, chimeric zoonotic poisons being injected into the animals for the purpose of infecting everybody else in accordance with the 1994 UN Cairo Population Accords. They told us, they wrote it down, we're going to get rid of 7 billion people. Why do we doubt this?
Yeah, it all goes back to Agenda 21, Agenda 2030.
Yes.
The World Earth Summit.
Yes, you got it exactly right. They wrote it down. So, Brandon, I'm glad we can have this frank conversation because a lot of people just they can't embrace the truth when they see it. It just blows my mind.
Well, we were
And by
reporting
the
on
way-
the Earth Summit at Rio in '92. We were reporting on that.
Wow,
in '93, because I that's what we were doing. I got into radio professionally in '95, working with people like Tom DeWeese. And so, yeah, we were talking about Agenda 21 when nobody knew what it was and most people didn't care. And of course, now it's Agenda 2030. And of course, we have 16.9. They want to chip all of us and track all of us. And yeah, you can see it all. You can see it all coming together.
Yes, you can.
Let me switch real quick to this clip. I'll be seeing it for the first time as well. This is going viral today. Maybe you can help me understand what he's wanting to do here.
Sure.
Here we go.
Their diet, about their physical activity, about the way that they live their lives. We think that wearables are a key to the MAHA agenda, making America healthy again. And we are going to, my vision is that every American is wearing a wearable within 4 years.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Now, I know my wife likes to wear her iWatch, count her paces and all that kind of thing. If it's voluntary, okay, great. You can find out some things, whatever. But what is he talking about? Certainly he's not talking about making anything mandatory, right?
Well, I fear so. I'm glad you mentioned your wife with Fitbits and the wearable devices is exactly what it is. So the pretext to all of this, the reason why I'm bothered is because out of that lawsuit, in the discovery that we had found evidence that the military had already tested the shots. There were 44,000 service members and their families were test subjects starting at the end of 2019, if you can imagine that. Only 178 people finished that test. And by the way, 1,200 deaths were buried along with an 82% spontaneous abortion rate. And the participants that showed up went home with 1,291 new diseases that they didn't show up with. All of that our military knew while it was happening because in the study, C459-1001, they used a device called the InTouch eDiary. It's an ePCR device, as they call it. Effectively, it was a wearable. The DoD, Pfizer, FDA were actually watching the test subjects in real time by virtue of this device, cellular changes, reactions, changes in the heartbeat. They were monitoring the health at the cellular level through the 5G system using this. It operates on low energy Bluetooth. It's got a kilometer-long range to the 5G cell phone network. The data was sent straight to Israel. It was laundered, and then it was provided back to the FDA, the CDC, and the DoD, safe and effective. And that is how the emergency use authorization was actually granted. It was based on that trial. I served that very document and the report thereafter, the one that showed they had 1,291 new diseases, upon the Secretary of Defense prior to his issuing the order, because that study they had in their hands for a year in advance of the issuance of that order. Right. This is what he's talking about. And the sad part about it is the people that got the bots and the rest of the stuff on the inside are actually subject to discovery and use by virtue of their wireless body area networks. There's a lot of science on this. They've been able to harvest energy from people using these devices. They certainly can get all the intelligence they want, particularly from people that have the nanobots inside of them. And by the way, most of us do. Non-vaxxed because they're contagious effectively. So when Noah Harari and Klaus Schwab
wait. When you say they're contagious, meaning people who have gotten the shots shed on us, pass it on?
Yeah, that's right. But the nanobots in particular, the lipid nanoparticles in particular, come from exchanges of bodily fluids primarily. But even then, the reality is that those things were also in the nasal swabs that were going up into people's brains. So when they're doing the EPC or whatever that stupid test was, they'd stick that thing right up your main brain, right next to your brain, and there were actually bots in the tips of those things.
The PCR, those PCR tests, right?
That's right, PCR tests.
Hold right
That's
there.
Correct.
Hold right there. I got a hard break. The computer's going to take it away. If you want to get his book, by the way, written by him and several others, not just Todd Callender, but also Jerome Corsi, who I've interviewed before, Craig Campbell and others. It's on Amazon, Disease X and Medical Martial Law. It's on Amazon. Again, you can get it. He's going to come back and I want to ask him a few more questions before we let him go. Fascinating conversation. And again, you're watching Worldview Tube. We'll be right back. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to worldviewtalk.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that well, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to worldviewtalk.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com. Again, worldviewtalk.com. Oh, while you're there, not only do they have cell phones that aren't tracking you, you can find out about how to get a satellite phone. Should the whole system go down and you want to communicate with a family member or a loved one, you might want to have a satellite phone. Or how about their solar generators? They have great solar generators. Check them all out right now. Worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com.
Looking for a trusted source to understand today's world through a Christian worldview? Worldview Tube is built on the 35 years of worldview books, columns, research, and high-profile interviews of Brannon House. Want to know more about Worldview Tube, its founder, history, team, and mission? Visit worldviewtube.com/about. That's worldviewtube.com/about. Worldview Tube is your source for understanding the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
And welcome back. Glad you're with us. Don't forget about us and needing your support and a way you can support us and your health at the same time. Bella Grace. You know what? God bless all the experts I bring on here. I love them and they're great. But no one gets the response that Miss Melissa gets. She was on here with me last night talking about Bella Grace. She's the one that found it and brought it to us. And I started taking it. It's got 80 clinical trials, high-end collagen with the peptides cut short. So your body actually absorbs it. Studies show you absorb 95%. It actually gets into you. Your stomach lining is made with collagen. So if you've got a leaky gut, that's how my hands cleared up. Cracking and bleeding for years, it stopped. Good collagen plus the astaxanthin crosses a brain-blood barrier loaded with, that great product that takes on those free radicals, right? And then you got the cat's claw. That's from a bark on a vine in Peru. It's an anti-inflammatory. Well, she was on last night just for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. And a lot of you ordered. And I said to her, because she's always like, did I do a good job? Was it okay? Like, honey, you're authentic. You're real. This is you. This is the real you. You guys want to know what she's like in real life? You see it on TV. She's very laid back like that. Someone said that to me last night. She said, she is so laid back. I said, don't you think she has to be married to me? But that's her. And I said, you are the best spokesperson we have for this great product because you're so authentic. And God bless all the doctors and MDs and functional medicine doctors to come on here and talk about the product. I'm not undermining them. I appreciate them. But Melissa has a real connection to this audience. One reason why is because a lot of you know her. You're the ones that talk to her on the phone as she handles customer support, donor relations. And you have watched her, many of you, for years when we were traveling, doing our Worldview weekends in 300 cities, starting out with... she and I started those in February of '93, but then we added a motor coach to the routine and started taking the kids with us when Logan was 3 months old. So a lot of you have watched us raise our family. You've been watching Melissa for years at our conferences, oversee the resource table and the book table. So you guys know her, and she is not going to promote something she does not believe in. She said that last night, and she's dead serious. We say no to so many different organizations or companies wanting us to pitch their products for them. If we don't believe in them, if we don't know they're legit, if we won't use them, we won't promote them. But last night, she got such a big response. So I want to just give a shout out to my wife, who gets still the biggest spokesperson for any product we have is her. And I've tried to convince her of that over the years. She saw it last night herself and today with the order. So thank you to all of you. MelissaHouseBG.com. Joining me again is Todd Callender. His book's available on Amazon, Disease X and Medical Martial Law. All right, Todd, these wearables that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is talking about, I'm sure he has good intentions, right? I mean, everything I've seen about him, I mean, tonight we're talking about him helping us find all these missing kids. We just had 60 kids rescued, the largest rescue of children so far. Just had Tara Rodas on, the HHS whistleblower. So I know he's getting the coloring, the red dyes and all this stuff out of our food. Is he meaning it? Hey, look, if you want to wear the iPhone or the different technologies, whatever they're called, bit something or another, and track this stuff, great, let's do this. Is that what he's talking about? Surely he's not for mandating anything, right?
I can't speak for him. I do know him. And actually, I got to tell you, I've been an enormous fan of his law firm for years. Children's Health Defense is his firm. They do public litigation. I have a firm called Disabled Rights. We do pro bono public interest litigation, such as Robert V. Austin against the DOD et al., to stop the shot. So I am an admirer of him in many ways, but particularly as a lawyer, for a lot of the things that they have accomplished, including stopping 5G. I mean, it's amazing. They won against the FCC. It was Scott McCall was the lawyer. I've interviewed him myself. That they're fantastic people in what it is they do. So what I personally believe is that he doesn't understand the significance of this, because this is being hooked into the Palantir, NVIDIA, MITRE equipment that President Trump just funded with billions of dollars, and by the way, made the executives in charge of integrating people's health through AI, through these wearable devices, into the government's computers. He made this executives, lieutenant colonels in the military, no military training whatsoever, and they're running around as O5s, right? They're 2 steps away from generals.
So you join me in being concerned about Palantir.
Oh my Lord, this is evil incarnate. Do you see Alex Karp up there talking about killing people? He's already doing it. The Palantir software incorporates AI into choosing targets based effectively on their social scores. So you look at Gaza, it's in use right now. They are eliminating people targeted not by people, but by AI. That's what Palantir does. They take total information awareness, and then the AI picks out who the targets are. You know who the targets are? You and me and everybody that thinks like us. Humanity, we are the targets.
When you say, is that the video, which I have not shared on the air, because I didn't know who it was at the time. I saw it and I moved right past it, but you're sparking my memory if it's the same footage and I'm looking for it. But there was a guy that was speaking to a live audience.
Yeah, crazy hair. We're gonna kill our enemies. That guy.
And he threw something out into the crowd.
That was a different one, but that's the same guy.
And the guy came, and the device came back around, and it hit a dummy standing on the. There was a dummy standing on the platform, and it hit him in the forehead. Hit him in the
kamikaze drone. Yeah. Kamikaze drones. I don't think that was Alex Karp, but that is the technology that they're using. That is exactly what it is. In fact, I just did I have my own podcast. I just did a monologue about that today, because there are ample videos out there of these people saying in their own words, it's called primary evidence. This is what we're going to do. This is what we have done. We have kamikaze drones. They're autonomous. We removed humans from decision-making in the battlefield. This is what they are bragging about, right? And Palantir, MITRE, NVIDIA, we've done a lot of research on these gangsters. They are being paid to incorporate SynBio, right? SynBio means synthetic biology. The HHS actually has a whole division based on the genetic modification of every plant and animal species on the planet. This all predated Mr. Kennedy's arrival there, but nonetheless, it does exist, because we are all being incorporated into this new paradigm. It's effectively synthetic reality.
You mentioned Noah Harari, right?
Yes, I did.
Well,
yes.
Let me play the clip. I think that
Please.
Fits with this. Here we go.
So important. It's important because we've reached the point when we can hack not just computers, we can hack human beings and other organisms. Now, what do you need in order to hack a human being? You need 2 things. You need a lot of computing power, and you need a lot of data, especially biometric data. What we have seen so far, it's corporations and governments collecting data about where we go, who we meet, what movies we watch. The next phase is the surveillance going under our skin. The most important development of the 21st century is this ability to hack human beings, to go under the skin, collect biometric data, analyze it, and understand people better than they understand themselves. This I believe, is maybe the most important event of the 21st century. By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. Because once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it.
So far, we have discovered the secrets of less than 0.3% of complex life on the planet. Think what will we achieve when? And it is a matter of when. We understand 1 or 2%, let alone 5 or 10%.
Science is replacing evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design. Not the intelligent design of some god above the clouds, but our intelligent design and the intelligent design of our clouds. The IBM cloud, the Microsoft cloud, these are the new driving forces of evolution. And at the same time, science may enable life after being confined for 4 billion years to the limited realm of organic compounds. Science may enable life to break out into the inorganic realm.
And notice what he
Now,
said
why
here
is
at the beginning.
data-
I want to go back here real quick because this was key. Oh, I mean, all of that was key, but listen to this here.
So important. It's important because we've reached the point when we can hack not just computers, we can hack human beings and other organisms. Now, what do you need in order to hack a human being? You need two things. You need a lot of computing power, and
you need a lot of computing power. Is that why they're setting up all these data centers?
Yeah, but please understand me. A lot of that power source is actually our bodies. The advancements in harvesting energy from our bodies to run things, just literally like the Matrix, has come so far in 20 years, it's mind-bending. The IEEE actually have international standards on this. It takes a lot of data and a lot of time to develop international standards. But the reality is they've already hacked people's bodies. It's commercial. It's already live. So if you were to look, for example, at the Bill Gates patent, it's World Intellectual Property Office 20200060606, emphasis added on the 3 6s, please. He basically says, look, I reserve the right to use people as cloud computing nodes, batteries, and power sources so I can use them to mine cryptocurrency. Well, lo and behold, they already have, right? That patent kit was awarded in 2020. Now we have a company called inpersona.com that, and you can look it up for yourself. It's dev.inpersona.com. And it's been there for a couple of years because I've been watching it. And the reality is that they brag about having used 1.4 million human heartbeats to mine cryptocurrency. That's using our biorhythms to power their computers to mine cryptocurrency. How? The use of cesium-137. That is the radioactive material that runs the atomic clock. It's the radioactive material they use in nuclear bombs, and it's the means by which the 5G internet hooks in with people's bodies in fractions of a microsecond, just like this. Without it, they can't do it. When cesium-137 is introduced to living tissue, it turns that living tissue into a transducer, receiver, amplifier, and transmitter. That is science. They've been pasting us, feeding us, drinking cesium-137, crop dusting it for ages. We all have cesium-137 in our bodies, and it is being used to incorporate our bodies into their matrix, power and cloud computing. They are already using synthetic biology in an integrated model, brain tissue, human brain tissue with a chip, only uses 20 watts, and it's a supercomputer. This is now on the market. What I'm trying to say to you is they've already incorporated half the planet's bodies into their AI cloud computing matrix.
Okay, just for folks who don't believe it, here's the clip. I found it while he was talking of Bill Gates. By the way, I don't know if you guys know this. This is one reason people email us all the time. If I can just take a second and plug our own network here. People email us all the time and or send letters saying your network covers so much information. You know one reason why we cover so much information, folks, is because we're not reading everything out of a teleprompter. I don't use a teleprompter on Brennan House Live. Okay, this is all free-flowing, give and take. Listen, ask a question. Listen, ask a question. He says something, a guest says something. I go look it up off camera. Okay, I have a button over here. I can control if I'm on camera or not. I go off camera while he's talking. I'm listening. I'm grabbing data. That's what, and I don't know many other hosts that do this, by the way, because I don't know why. I don't know why they don't. But that's what makes our show so cutting edge. I'm learning along with you. And then when a guest says something, I go, is that true? I search it, I find it, and add to the conversation. So we're all seeing the data being talked about, okay? That's why this show is so entertaining for me personally, because I'm learning right along with you, and I'm verifying what's being said in real time, and you get to see it. This is what's so fun about the way we produce the show, which I think, just to let you guys know, is why you find it so entertaining, listening friends. Now, while he was talking, I did that. Now listen to what Bill Gates says. Here we go.
Making the mRNA is really easy and really cheap, and that's the magic of this thing. But there's no doubt in the next 5 years, we can, we just need to mess around. There's a lot of lipid nanoparticles, and some are very self-assembly.
What? Yeah.
And some are very self-assembly.
And some are very self-assembly.
This is nano construction. I don't even begin to understand how far ahead of where we thought our technology was.
Wow. Obviously, that's not a new clip to you, right?
No, it's all in the book. All of this, there's 173 pieces of citation in there going into exactly these kinds of things. There's lots of pictures. None of this is new to me. In fact, the sad part is discovering it over the last 5 years, because they've been at this since the 1950s. And let me be clear. We are already in World War III, and the war is on our species. We're in the middle of an extinction level event. The war is on humanity. And those gangsters that you showed up there, the Klaus Schwab, they cannot be human. It's apparent to me that they hate us with every fiber of their being. They cannot be genetically human, right? It doesn't make sense that they would be. Are they going to kill themselves in the process? Of course, they're not going to do that. Whatever this is, I assume that they are demons. They all are sociopathic Satanists, undoubtedly. And we're in a spiritual war, right? As God's children, as God's creations. And when you hear Noah Harari and these gangsters talk about changing, genetically modifying every plant, animal species on this planet, it is for the purpose of spiting God, our creator.
You know what it makes me think of?
Our existence.
It makes me think of Genesis 6.
Yes, it is.
Because Genesis 6, and I don't think the Nephilim is going on today, personally. I don't think it is. But that's why people don't know why God brought the flood, worldwide flood. But one of the reasons was that Satan was fooling around with the genetic line.
Yes,
and
he was making them chimeric.
There was a demonic entity fooling around with the daughters of men and creating these Nephilim, as they were called. And it was to pollute the line through which the Savior, the Messiah, would come. And isn't it interesting? The Bible says, as it was in the days of Lot, as it was in the days of Noah, and now we're fooling around at the DNA level, which again, has me wondering where we are at on God's timetable. But I do want to play another clip, because this is being done by the military.
Yes, that's right.
Listen to
it's a military operation.
Okay, and here's RFK Jr. on that.
Turns out that, the vaccines were developed not by Moderna and Pfizer. They were developed by NIH. They're owned, the patents are owned 50% by NIH. Nor were they manufactured by Pfizer or by Moderna. They were manufactured by military contractors. And basically, Pfizer and Moderna were paid to put their stamps on those vaccines as if they came from the pharmaceutical industry. But, that's not what they were doing. They were coming from, this was a military project from the beginning.
Military project from the beginning, which military project from the beginning, doesn't that really mean CIA?
Well, no. I mean, look, DARPA. Is part of it, right? DARPA, at the end of the day, is part of this. In fact, a lead proponent of it. And it goes back all the way, believe it or not, to the Henry Kissinger memo on population in 1974. It became official policy of the U.S. government in 1980 that no more than 8 billion people can be on this planet. Right after that, we see Gardasil rolled out, makes people sterile. Right? Every girl of childbearing age has to have it. People start dying from these horrible diseases. We got Maurice Hilleman, father of vaccinology for Merck, laughing about putting the SV40 cell lining, that's an immortal cancer cell lining, in all of vaccines, which now people are, what's SV40? Oh, you've been given cancer for every shot you got, at least since 1980, if not from before. Why should we be surprised by any of this? It's always been a military operation, except that the DOE, Department of Energy, is the ones who actually created these pathogens.
Hold right there. Hard break. Computer's going to take it away. More on the other side. Todd calendar with the book, Disease X.
I'll tell you one little quick story. We had a Worldview Weekend client who lived in California, lost their house, very wealthy guy. He didn't use Bitcoin. He came over here, drove to Arizona with $286,000 worth of his gold because he had no money and no house available. His bank was shut down because he couldn't have access to his bank account.
Was this during the fire? Was this during the fires?
During the fire. Didn't have his driver's license. He lost it. The state wouldn't give him a new license because he had no active mailing address. Real mess. So he came to Arizona to buy a house. He's moving everything over. He said, the only thing I got in my possession that I can get liquid with right now is my gold. I gave him a check for $286,000, and guess what? I didn't need his social, his driver's license. Sort of smiled, and I said, you know, I know you and Brandon talked about how this worked, but boy, this is great. I feel good. I got my money. Nobody bothered me, and I'm protected, and it's private. So you people out there who are sitting on your hands when Wes and I are sending you these requests and Brandon and you are talking to you, you better get active because you're going to pay me $4,000 an ounce the end of the year. Trust me.
You better get your. I highly suggest you get your free packet. You don't have to do anything. It's free, no obligation. Just simply go to worldviewgold.com, fill out the form, worldviewgold.com, or just text Wes and give him your name and address and say, I want the free packet. That's all you got to do. 602-558-8585. 602-558-8585. All right, folks, I do my Numi every day, or my Bella Grace every day, and I do my Numi, and I do my Gatatana, the power of three. Okay, you see my wife bring me the green drink. That's the Gatatana. I do the Bella Grace, you know that. I do the Numi, and I do the Gatatana. This is loaded with glutathione to detox your cells. Dr. Lana and so many of these doctors have talked about the importance of swishing with glutathione so that you are flushing out these toxins, a lot of this stuff that's being generated by the EMF. They say that glutathione is one of the best ways to detox with all this garbage going on, okay? So I do it every day. In fact, studies show there's 165,000 studies on glutathione at PubMed. And studies show that it may remove mercury from your brain, helping to prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. So there's a lot of reasons, folks. Now, you can go get a IV of glutathione. It's going to cost you about $250. And the science shows, from what I'm told, that it actually gets broken down. The purest way to get glutathione in its totality into your system is swishing it. That's why I take 2 capfuls, I swish it for about 3 minutes, and then I swallow, okay? And you can spit it out if you want, but then you're within 90 seconds getting glutathione in your system, okay? It's not a joke. It's real. Swishforlife.com. Add this to your Bella Grace. Do your Numi. Do your Gatatana. Those are the 3 things I do every day, folks. Every day. Swishforlife.com, particularly when we're talking about 5G, EMF, and all of that. Amazing, amazing how we were promoting glutathione and Numi, Swish for Life. Before that, we knew that. And then these doctors are like, oh, that glutathione you're promoting? By the way, this is what it helps to do as well. So it fits together. Joining me again is Todd Callender. He's just going to join us for a few more minutes. Now, we're talking about the eugenics, really. Well, here's a clip from my buddy, Dr. Peter McCullough. Listen to this.
What just hit yesterday, the millennial generation, the mortality is way up. The vaccine accelerates death from other causes. So if someone has cancer, the vaccine accelerates that. If someone has heart disease, one's more likely to have fatal heart attacks and strokes. The blood clotting, it's undeniable the vaccines cause blood clotting, which is a common cause of final death as a large blood clot travels to the lung or in the brain. Justin Bieber's wife had a blood clot in the brain. All the athletes dying on the field, you can see it all over. The vaccine is incredibly risky. And it is basically, it's achieving its goal. If the goal was to reduce the world's population, it's working.
And we saw the other night from Nick Helsher a graphic, Todd, that shows that the shots, according to this study, has killed more people than World War I, World War II, and Vietnam combined. And more here in America.
Many more. And by the way, they put 3 separate HIV proteins into each of the shots, the 85, PP14, GP120, to do what? Give people vaccine-induced AIDS, acquired autoimmune deficiency syndrome. That's a thing. And so we shouldn't wonder why it is that Dr. McCullough says that, right? That whatever ailment you had, by the way, we all have cancer all the time. It's just our bodies take care of it. But these vaccines, quote unquote, as air quotes, Also removed the killer T cells from the victims and replaced it with what they call a synthetic B cell, something that could be turned on and turned off like a microchip. They effectively are polymerizing and changing people into symbiocomputers, just as we were talking about. And that's already happened. They're genetically modified. Open reading frames, we know which ones it are that actually cause the clots that Dr. McCullough was talking about. In fact, he might be a member of our symposium we're putting together on this. We have all been genetically modified.
It's like, this is all part of transhumanism and technocracy, right?
But it's a combination of the two. It's an either or, and both are fine. Whether we die or whether we survive and become their slaves, right? Their power sources and cloud computing nodes is fine. Why do you think we have all these stunning rates of autism? Isn't it easier if people don't know anything? You just play video games all day and you get to use their biorhythms, free energy, free cloud computing, because that's what they're doing. They're
by the way, that's so funny. No, it's not funny, but it's funny you mentioned that because the other night I talked to Dr. Lana, and they were saying that one of the effects of all this EMF is that, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but one of the studies that I read on the air to her was they think that all this 5G and EMF is causing people to become more passive.
It is. Of course it is. And this is well practiced. In Desert Storm, right, 1991, U.S. Army military intelligence used voice-to-skull technology. It's the gigahertz range. They would zap into the brains of the Iraqi soldiers. This is all a drop your weapons. And this is when you started seeing big groups of Iraqi soldiers that were surrendering to who? Reporters, anybody that wasn't an Iraqi, right? That technology's been around for a long time. Actually, it was the Defense Intelligence Agency that stole the Soviet research on use of EMF to effectuate changes in people's bodies and their thinking. They've had the ability to implant false memories remotely and affect the way we think. A half a hertz signal makes people horny. They've had this technology. They've been playing with it for decades. So the answer to your question is yes, and this is all very well documented. This is peer-reviewed studies. These are patents. These are treatises, and we have it all. We have mountains and mountains of evidence, tons of which was put into the federal court record already. And the courts didn't want to hear it.
I bet they didn't. Look at this clip by Bill Gates. Here we go.
An epidemic, either naturally caused or intentionally caused, is the most likely thing to cause, say, 10 million excess deaths.
What?
Yeah.
What? Let's hear that again.
Say it again.
An epidemic, either naturally caused or intentionally caused, is the most likely thing to cause, say, 10 million excess deaths. As we've seen various flu scares come along, we haven't had a super good response. So the paradigmatic examples are smallpox for an intentionally caused thing, that there was a simulation called Dark Winter that didn't come out very well, i.e. smallpox scored 1 and humanity scored 0. Flu epidemics, where we always talk about the potential recurrence of a 1917 like Spanish flu problem. And then Ebola.
You're excited about the technology innovation that's going on around this sort of RNA area. Could you talk us through where we're at, how optimistic you are that we can really accelerate the process of getting a vaccine developed?
Well, there's no licensed product using these technologies. So they're still, in terms of immunogenicity, duration, some questions to be answered. There's early animal data that shows real promise. And there's a lot of entities, government entities, our foundation and others, who've been working with the pharma companies and new entrants like Moderna and CureVac and saying, okay, what types of diseases would this work for? So if the platform comes along, it will be a valuable tool for the ongoing infectious diseases where we still have a gigantic burden. It'll be valuable for epidemics and potentially as a tool to limit the effect of bioterrorism. So it's very exciting. I think it's too bad in a way that we had to have these epidemics to get us to move. But I'm going to the Munich Security Conference partly so that people, I think bioterrorism is this scary thing, but potentially if people understand that the investments against bioterrorism, against natural epidemics, and to improve our situation on the diseases that are out there, that you can get sort of a triple benefit and not just vaccine.
Wow. So the pandemics get us to move. Kind of like you have to have a good crisis to get the people to go where they otherwise would not go. A couple closing questions, Todd. Why
an epidemic, either naturally caused or intentionally caused, is the
why would a computer guy be so interested in vaccines?
So we can implant his software, right? That's the whole point. They're hacking our bodies. They talk about doing it all the time. We are electrical creatures, and they figured out we're made of electricity and frequencies. Everything around us is. This is what we've come to understand, funny enough, from a NASA scientist, by the way, who tells that NASA that everything they think they know about science is wrong. So the point of which is that why would that happen is because they've already figured out how to use us. Like I said, the patents and all the papers talk about using us as cloud computing nodes and power devices. And what he's saying is hacking us and reprogramming us. That is what this genetic material is that they're inserting, right? It's reverse transcriptase, as they call it, but they're effectively genetically modifying us down to the DNA level so that they can use us as computers and battery power sources. That's what this is about. And you heard Noah Harari talk about we need big data. They want all the data. And not only that, they want to be able to control us in every way, including how's your health doing? Oh, this battery is used up. We might as well get a new one. Right, that's where we're at. And the funny part is Hollywood already tells us all of this stuff, right? Including pre-crime, which is what I talked about today. That's a thing. It's real. They already know what it is we're going to do because there are digital us's that they test things against. All of this is based at the end of the day on data, right?
How much of this do you think is laying the foundation, if you agree with me on Revelation 13 and 14, how much of this do you think is laying the foundation for a mark of the beast system?
See, this is the funny part. If you look at Revelations, it's 9:5-6, and it talks about those who will not be dead and wish they could be. That is describing the people that took the mark of the beast. I think actually the shots are the mark of the beast. The hydrogel in the shots is the mark of the beast, and now we find it in lidocaine, insulin, basically every injectable. They are using an abdication of consent. They're saying, okay, well, you can quit your job, you don't have to get the shots. Well, you can come and get a Krispy Kreme for your shots, or we'll just slip it into your lidocaine. Nobody ever reads the inserts. Well, we did, and we did the research. I think this is the mark of the beast. And I think it's already in people.
I don't think it's the mark of the beast until the beast shows up and everybody knows what's going on, right?
Well, I think AI is the beast.
But I do think it's laying the foundation for the mark of the beast.
Look, I think we're already there. When you read through the evidence that not only we have, but we've actually put into the official court record, you have to arrive at the conclusion that they've been at this already for a very long time. The one thing that we understand from the Bible is that those who take the mark, it talks about people doing this willingly with their consent. It doesn't say
because there's an angel flying across the sky saying, "Don't take the mark, or you will go to hell where there is eternal torment." I mean, so don't take it.
One would hope. But then one of the things that we also see is something called Funvax they used in 2004 to effectively break the chain, the communications link between us and God. There was a DOD study on this, and there's a video, if you look it up for yourself, FUNVAX, you'll hear them talking about it. And it's actually measurable. So I think we have been dumbed down. We've been put away from God in every way we can. We've been programmed. And that now you find people that are incapable, especially after getting the shots. One of the first things they say is, I can't feel God anymore.
Well, what's interesting is that Dr. Thorpe, who's one of our broadcasters here.
Yes, I love Dr. Thorpe.
He did a peer-reviewed study that showed that people who took these shots, and I can't remember if it was one or how many, but those that had taken these shots, they got where they had cognitive disorder, the cognitive dissonance. They couldn't think clearly. They became suicidal, depressed, the violent, but just the inability to think. And you. There's
a reason for that.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. It's actually in the very study I talked about, C459-1001. The number one serious adverse event of special interest that is in 5.3.6 post-market review by the FDA. The number one serious adverse event was something called the 1p36 gene deletion syndrome. The 1p36 gene regulates our frontal cortex. That's the executive function. It is a congenital disease. You're born with it. But if you took the shots, it's the number one side effect. So the answer is yes. And our military doctors, flight surgeons in the military, have been telling me for the past 3 years that the troops that got the shots can't get through the training. They can't get through the flight programs because they can't think. All of us know people that got the shots. Their personalities have changed. Right? They don't smile anymore. They do weird things. They don't talk like they used to talk. They don't seem to be able to understand what we're saying. We all know this. They effectively have been turned into vaccine zombies, is the sad part about this.
In closing, what did you do for the CIA?
I didn't work for the CIA. I spent 3 years in Cuba. I was the first and only American there, and I was actually conducting clinical field trials there. Now, having said all of that, everybody in the embassies all around you are all CIA types that you have to interact with. But I was down there conducting clinical field trials.
Wow. Fascinating conversation. Disease X and medical martial law, defeating the globalist plan to depopulate the world and enslave the remnant. Todd S. Callender, JD. Jerome Corsi, PhD, and Craig D. Campbell, PhD, available on Amazon. I don't know why I haven't heard about you till today, but thanks to Liz for telling me about you. And
she's a sweetheart.
Great to have you on. I know we've had you on longer than we anticipated, so thank you for your willingness to be here.
No, it's my honor. Brennan, it is such a joy for me. You find fellow truth tellers, and we link arms, and we drive on, and we hold the line, and this is how we do it. God bless you for your efforts on educating humanity. You really are a savior.
Well, thank you. A great conversation tonight, very informative. I look forward to ordering your book and reading and finding out more, and looking forward to having you back, Todd.
Be my honor. Thank you kindly.
Todd checking in. Here's his book again, Disease X and Medical Martial Law. Fascinating interview, folks. And again, if you appreciate what we're doing, we need your support. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com, pushing out so much information to you guys absolutely free of charge. You'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. And if you would like to make a contribution over the phone, you'll find our phone number there, worldviewfoundation.com. And Melissa, leave her a voicemail or text her. She'll get back to you and help you make that contribution over the phone if that's what you prefer to do. Another thing you can do, remember us in your estate planning. We have several families over the years that have added us to their estate planning. And if you'd like to leave a legacy, one that continues to push out truth and a Christian worldview through programming and our network and our conferences and so much more, our radio show, TV shows, documentaries, you can do that. All you got to do is reach out to Melissa on that number at our website, worldviewfoundation.com. Get from her our EIN number and our official mailing address, and then give that to your attorney who plans your estate, and then you will be continuing your Christian worldview legacy through us. So thank you for adding us to your estate planning. We'll be right back after this break.
My story started with alcohol, and I had tried going to other treatments, and all I did was think about how I was not going to drink, or how I was going to drink one more day and then stop the next day. And Katie had found a treatment. I thought it was kind of hokey.
I could see a couple days into it, it's like the light bulb went on with him.
It's an IV infusion of all natural NAD. It saved my life and my family.
We've been where you sit.
The hardest part of this is making that phone call and just come in and talk to us.
Nature has a rhythm, a quiet strength, a way of restoring, protecting, and renewing us. Wellness isn't just about how you feel today. It's the quiet choices you make for tomorrow. At myvitamin.com/worldview, we've made daily self-care simple. Quality vitamins, daily supplements, and targeted nutrition. myvitamin.com/worldview makes it easy. Pure ingredients thoughtfully combined, tailored for your body. Formulated by a doctor who has over 25 years of medical practice experience and is a certified functional medicine provider. Visit myvitamin.com/worldview today and take the next step towards strength, balance, and resilience. Discover the wide range of med packs made for you and your loved ones. What you nurture today becomes the strength you walk in tomorrow.
All right, folks, that is our broadcast for tonight. As always, thank you so much for, telling other folks about the program. It's so important that you do that so that we can reach out and educate a lot more people with truth. So please, again, tell all your family and friends about us. Hey, would you like to order a stack of 20 business cards? They're absolutely free. We've now shipped out over 15,000 of these free business cards. They're full color, front and back, and you can give them away to people. Say, hey, check out Worldview Tube and the great programs there. The cards are free, folks, so thank you for ordering them right now at worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. Roll the music, guys. Let's call it a night. And also, of course, our national conference coming up on October 3rd. That's a Friday night, and Saturday, October 4th, with a ton of speakers, including Hadia, including Sidney Powell, Gordon Chang, a whole list of folks. There it is right there. Go ahead. We only have seating for 300 people. Only got seating for 300 people. So get your tickets now. They're only $99. We brought the price way down, moving it away from a resort. Those resorts are beautiful, but they're not cheap. They're rent. By doing it now in Collierville, here in the Mid-South here outside of Memphis in Tennessee, we are able to get the price way down. We pass that savings on to you. So go ahead and register now, worldviewstore.com. Only got seating for 350 people. So we'd love to see you in person. All right. Hey, thanks again for watching. Till next time, I'm Brandon House. May God save America. Take care.
Moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brandon House.
Welcome. Glad you were with us on this June 25th, 2025. Joining me today is going to be Hadia. She is a former Muslim. She has worked in our government in some very high positions. She's going to be a keynote speaker for us at our coming up fall conference this fall as well. Full details on that at worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. She has an interesting bio. You should go to her website. I think it's resurrectministry.org. Is that right, Logan? Resurrectministry.org. You should read her bio, folks. It's pretty amazing. And that's not everything. She's holding out on us. Yep, she's holding out on us. Because last week on the broadcast, she said something about when she met with Gaddafi. She just went glibly by. Well, when I was in Gaddafi's tent talking with Gaddafi, I was like, what, wait a minute, back up there. She was just going to blow right by that, like that was just like nothing, you know, like when I went out to the grocery store. I said, really? Seriously? I'm hearing about this like everybody else for the first time on the air. I don't get any inside track. No, apparently not. And I'm guessing, friends, there are more stories like that one. Resurrectministry.com. Resurrectministry.com. You should read her bio. I thank my editor, Jill, for telling us about Hadia. She goes to not Jack Hayford. She goes to